Well, welcome to another episode of My Harlow My Life, and I'm really pleased to say joining me today, of course, is Harlow's Youth Development Officer. Am I right in saying that? Alfie Babb. So, welcome, Alfie. Nice to have you on, and thanks for giving up your time for coming on. And we asked people to actually ask. Well, I put people out there and asked them who they would like to come, and a certain Mr. Tom Cunningham asked me to actually do you. So there you go. So. Big kahunas with the big boss, eh? But there we go.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
No worries, mate. So, I suppose, like everybody else, and same as I spoke to young Tom last night, I mean, lockdown for you, what's that been like? I mean, or have you been at the club, or have you been stuck at home?
So I think when the lockdown first came, that I think I was at home for maybe 2.5 months. But I've been fortunate enough that with the FA's guidelines that were put in place, I was able to get into the club. I think about 3 or 4 weeks ago to start preparation to bring the youth teams back. So yeah, it's been a bit slow, but it's been a good 4 weeks getting back into the swing of things. Not quite normal, but we're getting there.
Are most of the teams back now? Then are they? Following all the all the rules and everything else, but are most of them back, or have you found certain parents have said, no, I don't fancy that too much, and not send a little boy back yet or a little girl back yet?
No, I mean there is some players that are not back yet, but I'd say the vast majority are back at school now as well. We're getting most teams, most players in now. So yeah, everyone's back into the swing of the football club and stuff. So yeah, no, it's yeah, everyone's pretty much in now.
So how did how did you first get involved in Harlow, and then was that as a coach, and then how did you then jump into being in the position you're in now?
I mean, it goes back quite some time actually. So the first youth team I ever played for was Harlow,
right?
And I think I was an under-8 at the time. I went in. I was only about for a season. The team that I was actually with, at the time, that was what 12 years ago now. So that was quite some time. But at the time, the team that I was with, we moved between clubs quite frequently over the seasons. And I actually found myself coming back almost 10 years later to join the college academy.
Mm-hmm.
So that was straight from secondary school. I went into the Harlow Town academy there, and then at the time I was going through my coaching badges before I even started the course, like the college course. So there was a team available, and I think at the age of 16 I took on a side. I think they were under-8s at the time. So yeah, that's how I first got involved, and I think it will be coming up to like my 5th season. So yeah, that's how I first got involved.
So what was that like, coaching youngsters, from playing yourself and then going back and having to coach people of 7 years of age? I mean, what was that like?
Oh, do you know what? I love it. Like, I started coaching at another local youth side. I sort of found myself, I think I was about 15 at the time, and I sort of almost was falling out of love for playing football, which sounds really, really odd. But, I had a couple of really successful seasons prior. I just found myself, wanting a new challenge. And then I sort of considered the two options. My dad put it to me and was like, look, either look at refereeing maybe or look at coaching. But the coaching side of it really grabbed me, because I feel like in my time I've had some absolutely fantastic coaching, and I've also seen some coaching that I feel like could have been improved. So I felt like, I can go into that. So yeah, as soon as I got myself into it, the age groups were young enough and they were able to relate to me quite well. So I found that I was able to immerse them in a training session. It wasn't just their parent taking it. So I've always really, really enjoyed coaching. I think that actually, if I didn't go into coaching, I possibly could have fell out of football, to be honest with you. But yeah, no, coaching really revitalised my love of the game for sure. So it was great.
So how long was you coaching the boys for?
At the
Harlow.
team prior to Harlow, maybe about a season.
Yeah. So
maybe about a season.
Exactly what the team at Harlow for a season.
No, so for the team at Harlow, so when I took them on at 16, when I joined the college program, I think I had them for, I think it was 3 seasons.
Mm-hmm.
I had them for, yeah, that makes sense. So 3 seasons I had them for. The first season was almost that them finding their feet. I had a really successful second and third season. So yeah.
Mm. So where did the job offer come from then? So when did you get the? When did I'm assuming it must have come from the boss himself, but I mean, where did that? Did that come as a bit of a surprise for you?
I think so. I mean, I was spending so much time at the club anyways, and I think it was handy at the time as well because where I was with the college program, I already had my qualifications. I had everything that I possibly could need. So I was able to do like the soccer camps. I was able to obviously take different team training. So I found myself pretty much living my life there, which I absolutely love. But at the time I was actually working at McDonald's when I first was with the college program. Amazing experience to work there. It taught me a lot, but I think where I was spending so much time there at the time, it just sort of made sense to get me a little part-time role, and I was able to, just help out with the training evenings and alleviate pressure off of people, and then just sort of just went from there really. So I started with part-time, and then slowly but surely came into full-time.
So talk me through the discussion. What was that like when you faced it? I assume it must have been Tom. So I mean, what was that like? Because he's a very intimidating figure, isn't he? Do you know what I mean? So what was that like? I mean, once you get to know him, he's not. But when you first get to meet him, so was that a bit intimidating when he's talking to you?
I think, admittedly, going like to be honest with you, there was no there was no massive discussion when I became part-time, and I was just sort of helping out. But other than that, my only interview I ever had was, again, as I say, from McDonald's. So, going into that sort of environment is a lot different. But, as you quite rightly said, like, maybe to an outsider looking in, possibly they might get that impression. But, for me, I just sort of, I just felt so lucky, I think, at the time, and to be involved with, people such as, Tim, Danny, Sanko at the time, Tom. They've all got such amazing football experience. So for me, it wasn't too daunting. It was just more so like an overwhelming excitement of like, whoa, I didn't expect to be going into this. Like, but I'm extremely lucky to be handed an opportunity. And I was, I think, 18 at the time. So
18. I wouldn't have even said you was 18 now. Looking at you, I mean, I'll be honest. So how old are you then, Alfie?
20.
20. Okay. So what experiences did you get from the likes of Sanko, Danny, Tom? I mean, what have you learnt from those, from those three guys mainly?
Wow. I think possibly just like outlook on the game. Sanko coming from a Premier League, background, the strong defensive side of his game. I mean, he's a defender through and through, but he understands the game so well, and where he's played at the highest level, that was always so great to see. And the coaching that I received from him when I was part of the academy was, so good. Same thing with Danny. His experience again with him playing at Barnet and then being the manager of Harlow. I remember being at the playoff final and watching that, and thinking, wow, like this is incredible. Like this is crazy. That was at 15 years old. And then for Tom, the same thing. They all are slightly different in their way, but they've all got crazy experience. And every day I can learn something new from everyone. Whether they be an under-7s coach from another club, whether it be a new coach that we're bringing in, or from the likes of Tom and Tom, Danny, and Sanko. It's all experience. It's all different.
So I mean. Youth sides now for the club. I know me and Tim sort of first set the youth system up. However long ago that was now, I've lost count of when that was. We actually set the system up to start with. But I mean, how many teams have Harlow now got in their youth system?
Oh, do excuse me. I'm gonna bring up my folder right now. I'm gonna take a little look.
Is that one? It's crazy.
I think
Tim's folder.
We keep. What's that? Sorry.
Is that one of Tim's folders that he set up for you, or did you do it yourself? Because he loves folders, does Tim? Yeah.
I'd say the SharePoint is fantastic. Just think, so for youth sides, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 11, 12. I think we've got, as stands, we've got 14 youth sides. So I think we're at 14 youth sides. I think around player count is probably around, I think it's around 200, 210 mark.
Mm-hmm.
So pretty good.
How are you finding that? I mean, is that is it a tough job when you've got parents screaming at you? And I mean, the first time I met you, I think you had two ladies in there. I don't know if they were giving you a bit of grief, but there was two ladies in the office when I first actually met you. So I mean, is it a tough job? Do parents look at you and think, because of how, no disrespect, how young you look, they think they can pull one over on you?
I think it's different, to be honest with you. The game is constantly evolving,
Mm-hmm.
and possibly to some parents they might look at it like that. I feel I'm quite lucky in as much I don't read that much into it, or I try not to at least. But a lot of people who possibly do the same role would have, tons of experience and possibly be of an age where they've got some kids themselves and they're involved with the game. They've played for X, Y, and Z club. But for me, I'm, as I said to you earlier, I'm constantly evolving, like in myself. And yeah, it is a tough job, but it's also one of the most rewarding jobs ever. Seeing a child come through them gates. I mean, it's like the football club in itself, as you know, is just it's so, like, it's magical. When you get people through the gate, they never want to leave. And sometimes, yeah, you will have a difference of opinion, and sometimes that can be challenging. But in the same respect, you can, if you can sit back and listen and take stuff on, hopefully you'll always come to a resolution. So yeah, as you say, it is tough. You've got to deal with a lot of people. You think 210 players, you're then talking double the amount of that for all the parents that they've got. So it's it can be a tough job, but as I said, it's so rewarding. So it's good.
So what is your ideal goal for, say, a young boy or a young girl that's in the under sevens, or under eights? Is your sort of goal there with them to try and see if you can get a player, if it's a female or male, into one of the two first teams? Is that the ultimate goal for you?
Oh, 100%. I mean, like, if you think about some of the most amazing success stories in football, they often come from starting at the very very bottom age group and making their way up, and then appearing for one of the ladies' first teams or the reserves, or the same for the men's. So it's important to have that sort of pathway very clear. But I think when they're that young, as you say, like an under seven, the priority is just to get them enjoying the game and wanting to come back and yeah, just ultimately getting the love for the sport. But yeah, no, for sure, you're quite right in what you say. If you take on a player, you want to make sure that they have high goals and high achievements, because you often find that's how you get the best out of players. If you give them a goal, and you get them in on a Saturday and they watch the first team, they walk out the tunnel with the music. What kid of 7-8 years old wouldn't want that? So 100% in what you're saying.
So is the, if I remember rightly, get me age groups right, from under sevens to under 11, still non-competitive? Is that easier now? I know when it first came in, and I was managing teams, youth teams myself, when it first came in, it was very, very difficult to not say to a parent, well, it doesn't make a difference if we win or we lose. Has that sort of situation now got into the parents more because it's been in English football now for a period of time? So is that easier to cope with now?
I think that, yeah, you're right. It is normality now. Parents who come into it, they won't know any different. Sometimes they might be like, well, when I was younger, there was league tables and all this and all that. But yeah, it's definitely a major improvement in youth football. The one benefit, I mean, the league that we're in for that sort of age group, for the foundation phase, which is like 7s to 11s or 12s, depending on how you see it. But we're in the Mid Hearts League. And per age group, you might find that you have like 4 to 8 divisions. Mm-hmm. And if you start having a league table, what that creates is almost too much of a competitiveness. So, for example, if a team is winning every game 7 or 8-0, and they've got amazing goal difference, they've got amazing points on the table. If you say as a league or as a club, you say, no, look, this is too easy. It's not going to be any good for your child's development. Then you've got a battle of, yeah, but we're top of the table, we're going to have a presentation, we're going to get this trophy. And the more we move away from that and understand that, no, you need to, move division. You need to, be in more likability leagues. The better it will be for players' development. So yeah, no, it's definitely the right thing. And it wasn't the same when I was a kid. There was leagues and there was tables and all sorts of top goal scorers.
Yeah.
But yeah, the importance has to be on development rather than success at that age.
So with the individuals clubs then that are non-competitive, do yourself and Harlow now say to them, look, we don't want an individual presentation evening where they're giving out awards for like man of the season or top goal scorer or so, or do you actually say to them, right, if you are going to have an award, you can only have these awards at that do?
I mean, when it comes to presentations, unfortunately we weren't able to have one this season. As you can imagine, like with the climate and everything, getting ready for the new season, it's crazy. But yeah, no, with the season, again, it goes down to what a player has in mind for their goals. Everyone wants to be the player of the season. I think there's more emphasis. I mean, the trophies and the presentation that we held, not the season just gone, the one before, we had like a development award. So a player that has done so well over the season. I think that sometimes that award can actually be overshadowed a little bit. Sometimes it's given to whatever player. The stigma is so wrong sometimes with that award. But we changed the name of it, Development Award, and that went down really, really well. There's Manager Player of the Season. They could do that if they want. But generally when it comes to presentations, it's every child deserves to have some sort of recognition. And then if there's any other awards, Development Award is a compulsory one. And then if they want to do Parents Player or Players Player and stuff, then we can sort that. But yeah, definitely with the leagues, it's important that there's not that competitiveness. But presentations and stuff, it gives some players something to work towards.
So they go competitive now. What is it, under 12s, under 13, somewhere around there?
Under 12s is the age group that they have league table. Well, they can have league tables and stuff.
So I mean, when we get to that, I mean, is that then when you start looking at players as well that you could possibly put as part of your job, looking at that and thinking, Struth, there's some players there maybe in the under 14s, under 15s. Has the managers that you've had since you've been there sort of said to you, Alfie, is there anybody coming through that that you feel that can get into the first team? Have you had that sort of chat with the first team manager or reserve manager to say, look, Alfie, is there anybody in this age group that we might be able to take out the under 16s, under 17s and put into the squad?
Yeah, I mean, when it comes to my role, my priority is more so for say our under 18s or possibly even our under 16s into reserves football. I would say that's almost my remit, because I think that's the correct pathway for players to go to. The senior side of football can sometimes be a world in which under 16s and under 18s it takes a great amount of adjustment. It's a completely different ball game. If you're a 16, 17-year-old going into a men's reserve league or the Isthmian League, for example, you're going to be coming across players who have been in the game years and years and years and in them leagues for years and years. So yeah, for me personally, our reserves manager is very keen on looking at under 18s, under 16s players, looking at them. But any age group below it is just about nurturing them the best we can in all aspects of the game. So no matter if they go on to play for Harlow reserves, Harlow men's first team, or whether they go to play semi-professional football or whatever, it's important that we just set them in good stead. So yeah, that's really the priority.
But is there players? I mean, you have to, no names mentioned, of course, but I mean, is there players you look in? You've seen yourself, in the actual sort of setup that you look at and think, if that young lad keeps improving, keeps developing as the way he has been developing, that could make it big.
We've got some players with some incredible talent, talent that I wish I had when I was younger. So for those players, for the youngest of ones, as I said earlier, it's about keeping them, loving the club, loving the game. And when I look at some of the older age groups that we've got, again, we've got like a great coaching setup where players are getting coached well. So yeah, when I look at some of those older age groups, there's definitely players who've got potential, and if they keep on working hard, I can't see any reason why they wouldn't have the opportunity to go and play semi-professional football. Again, hopefully that's with Harlow, and if it's with another one, then as long as it's best for them, then that's great.
So when you're in the club, I mean, there is an old geezer in the club, of course, now that he's there almost all the time, and he's running the club sort of every single day, and he's so old, all his hair's fallen out. But I mean, literally, he'll kill me for that. But
yeah.
But literally, I mean, with Tim, I mean, how much have you learnt from Tim around sort of the way that he organises stuff and the way he runs a business? I mean, because I've known Tim since I'm probably 3 or 4. So we've known each other for years. So, no disrespect, he's very good at what he does. I mean, how much of that sort of stuff are you learning from him?
Oh, crazy amounts. Again, like everyone involved in the football club, including, as I said, like Tom, Chapo, Sanko, but, Tim from the side of organisation, conducting yourself appropriately and adapting yourself in different situations, having different outlooks on things, as you said, he's there, day in, day out, helping with the running of the football club. And, for myself, I'm there quite frequently as well. So, to say that I've learned from him is a complete understatement. The organisation with things, running spreadsheets effectively, taking over the role of secretary from him, or youth secretary from him. Learning from him, as I said, is an understatement. You learn something new, every day, and what I learned from Tim is a lot.
So when you've been doing it, I mean, is it doing the role? I mean, what's been the biggest highlight for you since you've been doing the role?
Oh, wow. It's hard to pinpoint. I'd say that there's been so many amazing moments. Sometimes it's seeing a team bring a comeback on a Saturday morning or a Sunday morning or something. A highlight? Do you know what? Off the top of my head, I couldn't give you one, but I could probably list 10 amazing moments that I've seen. Whether it be the first team, I'd tell you what, an amazing moment was seeing. Unfortunately, I wasn't there at the time. I was actually in Wales, but we set up an under-7s team, I think, in my first season in the role, but we set it up around Christmas time. And I remember, I think I was waking up and I checked my phone and I saw a slideshow of different pictures of them players who were just signed on to the under-7s. They've just gone into their first game in the league and they were celebrating like crazy of scoring goals. And you see them wearing the Harlow badge, and that for me is just. Yeah, it's that you see their moments all the time because I get to watch it. I'm so fortunate enough to see that sort of side of things. But I think that, if there's possibly one moment, I think it was knowing that team that we've just created, seeing the pictures, waking up to them and thinking, wow, like 3-4 months ago, they weren't playing football or they didn't even think about playing for a team. And now they're running around our arena, celebrating, scoring a goal. And, that's fantastic.
So in the role, what other goals have you set for yourself? In the role, I mean, is it a case of maybe moving the amount of teams and having more teams, or is there other sort of goals that you set yourself as a young man in the role?
In as much as goals, I think that the priority is to try and bring as many of the younger players through as we can. For that foundation phase. From sort of 5 to 11-year-olds is so important, because that's when we can grab where you grab them at such a young age, you can really then influence their football. So I would say that our Mini Hawks program, we that over the past sort of year or so has evolved so much. I remember when I first came to the club, I remember hearing about Mini Hawks and it was unbelievable, and a lot of them players went straight into teams. And it took us to re-evolve it, and we changed it to a Friday night, so they'd finish their school and they'd come over and have a training session, and we got up to numbers of like 50 kids, like 5 or 6 coaches that had to be there. I remember running it at first with Matt, who's a young lad that came through and decided that he wanted to help out with the Mini Hawks. So he did great, but it was just me and him to start. And where Mini Hawks has just got such a nice reputation now, we've got like 5 or 6 coaches involved, and we're having 50 kids in the arena between 5:30 and 6:30 on a Friday. And a lot of them players are now, fitting in the slots into the youth teams. And, we've created 2 under-7 sides now, who are now under 9s and under 8s, and we've now got an under 7s team ready to go into the league. So, that is definitely the priority. That's the goal. Try and get as many players in the younger age groups into the club.
So how are you speaking earlier on about teams winning 7-0, 8-0 and stuff like that, and because now in the Mid Hearts have got, as you said, like 5 or 6 divisions probably at each age group. So does that then become your job role then to go and speak to that that manager and say, look, I'm going to have, for your development of your side, we're going to have to give the league a call and see if we can't get moved up a division or 2 to try and get them into something competitive. So how do they normally take those sort of conversations? Because all of a sudden they're winning games, and I know what people are like. That that if you're a born winner, a bit like me and your Mr. Tim, we're definitely born winners, the both of us. We don't like losing at anything. So literally, if that was the case and you're going up to somebody like that to talk to them, how hard is that job role for you to say, look, you've got to do this for the kids to actually move them up? No,
I mean, we're very lucky that the leagues are very on top of monitoring it, and often they'll just move the sides themselves. Right. As I said, like, the league is very good at doing that. Sometimes we do have to take a look. Results, as you say, and as I said earlier, they're not the most important thing, but we need to make sure that we do keep on top of it, because a lot of players as well are born with this natural competitiveness. And often if they feel like they're going to turn up and lose, you lose their motivation, and then you won't get the best development out of them. So sometimes we do need to go to the league and say, look, I believe that this side needs to move down a division, or maybe this side needs to move up a division. But in as much as talking to the coaches, I said it earlier, like, we've got such a good coaches network now. So them conversations, I don't necessarily need to initiate them. Often it will be most coaches, we talk every week. If they're playing an away game, they'll message me how they get on, how specific players got on. If they're at the club, we'll have a little debrief after the game. Nice thing is that them age groups, they have different game times. So you might have a game that's still going on, and I'm able to talk to one of the coaches whilst we're taking the goals away or whatever. The conversations with coaches about players and their development and stuff is something that happens all the time. Not too difficult, and the league's great at moving sides accordingly.
So what's it like booking the pitches? Is it still a nightmare?
What's that, booking the pitches?
Yeah. It's still a nightmare.
We're a very busy football club. We're a bit busy football club, which is amazing. Like, it's so good. At the moment, it's quite tricky because we're only opening on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday for training, and we can only have 5 players, I think, per coach or per quarter or per rate, or however. It's quite difficult to give everyone exactly what they want. But for the most part, youth teams have their set day for training, and for whatever reason, whether it needs to be that there's a fixture one evening, we're quite lucky in as much as there is a little bit of room for movement. So yeah, it can be, as you say, it can be difficult, but we wouldn't want it the other way. We want it busy.
What about match days though? Is that difficult then still? Because I know in the middle, necessarily the greatest when they put about 8 teams at home one week, and the following week they'd have 1. Yeah.
I mean, it's not necessarily the league's fault, because they've got so many different secretaries for different age groups, so that they don't even look at that. If you ask an under 14 secretary to look at all the other leagues to see how many Harlow teams are at home, but for Saturdays they're easy enough, because teams only really require like a quarter or half a pitch, so we're able to piece that together quite easily. For Sunday football, yeah, it can be difficult. We've got a secondary pitch, which obviously isn't the arena, but it allows us a little bit of a breathing room should we have, as you say, the eight home fixtures on one Sunday come across.
And of course, you'll have a deadline as well, won't you? I suppose on certain Sundays, because of the ladies playing, if they're playing at home as well.
Yeah, no, definitely. There's different requirements for all the different teams. You know, whether a team's in the EJA league, they'll require the changing rooms. They might require some warm up time. And the same thing for ladies football. You know, they definitely require the changing room. So the logistics on a Sunday can sometimes get quite crazy. Trying to move teams' bags into one of our offices so that the next team can get in there. You know, but it's something that needs to be done. So, but what can you do? Again, it's good that we're busy.
But you can see from your face, and you know, and the way you're portraying yourself, that you really enjoy the job.
100%, 100%. As I say, like I'm very fortunate to be in a position where I'm able to learn so much from so many different people.
So who is it you lean on then? Say you're having a bad day, things are not going the way you want it to go. You just had somebody come in there, and a parent come in there and give you a bit of grief or whatever else, or something's happened. Who's the person that you go to sort of like for that, and who's the man you go, or man or woman that you go to football wise to go and ask for advice?
It all depends on the situation, I guess. I think that for the most part, I'd probably go to Tim, because he's usually just there. And Tim, as you know, is like a great talker, so you can just talk to Tim, and because he's again readily there. Otherwise, you know, it might be my dad. Might just get on the phone, speak with him about it. Easy management as well, not in football, but in a different sector. So you know that's also good. You get someone from a different sort of look of things. And again, like Tom as well, being able to just reach him on the phone and speak to him. And often these situations that I'll be going through are situations that they've already been through. So it's often, okay, there's a problem, but the resolution is just right around the corner. You just have to go and find it. So again, like very lucky to have them people just at the either at the tip of my fingers on my phone, or whether they're just in the next office.
What about football wise though? I mean, is that, would that have been something, when Danny was there? Would that have been sort of Danny? Because was you working there at the time when Danny was working there as well?
Yeah, so I was working part time when Danny was the director of youth football. I was working there part time, so I learnt a lot from him as during my time as a coach. And then when Danny went to just purely the first team, that's when I stepped into the role. So quite right, in the football aspect, in the technical and tactical and stuff. Definitely, Chapo, Tom, to go to. I think Sanko at the time had just moved on from the club. He just played his last game and stuff. So yeah, definitely Chapo and Tom to go to about football situations.
So what sort of stuff did you learn from Chapo? What sort of stuff would that you've taken on yourself? What sort of stuff? Because I mean, he's a great coach. He's started up his own business now as well. So I mean, what sort of stuff did you learn from Chapo?
I mean, I was coached by Chapo during my time at the academy, so it is more so, the ideology. I think the one thing that I stepped into that I'd never been introduced to before was, the ball rolling time. If a kid is turning up to play football, they should always have a football at their feet. That's one thing that resonates with me even today, and that's something that Danny had always told me from the outset. If you want to get something out of a player, just put a ball in their hands or put a ball at their feet. Make sure they're doing something specific to what they're going to be doing. So, when it comes to learning something from Danny, definitely that. When it comes to again, like experience, learning more about like the tactical side of the game. Definitely, I've had some amazing conversations with Tom and Danny, but talking to Tom about his time in being a manager and his time at Barnet and other clubs. That's great. So I learned a lot from both.
So I mean, with yourself, I mean, training badges wise, I mean, are you looking to go through the full list of training badges as well yourself?
But we'll see. I mean, at the moment, I'm a level 2 coach, but that's with the new structure, level 2. So it's over a longer period of time. I think it took me a year or two to get through that, with the different blocks and stuff, and going through the youth mods. I'm also going into the talent ID. So I went to I think it was Bristol. I don't know. It was only in February. I've got such a bad memory, but yeah. So I've done my level 2 in talent ID. So that's looking more about identifying specific players, and I went there more so out of just sort of interest about what talent ID really meant. But I think coming out of it was really good because you're able to spot identifiers of potential future players. But then at the same time, if you spot that a player is really good in some aspect, but perhaps lacking in another aspect, being able to identify that and then improve on the aspects that they need, makes me a better coach. So yeah, no, going on to, I think the next one's the UEFA B. I think that looks at more of the 11-a-side game and the the more senior side of stuff. At the moment, I'm not going to rush into it. I'm still putting in work in my level 2. I'm still trying to implement that as much as I possibly can, as well as the talent ID. But definitely for the future, I'd definitely look at it.
And Tom thoroughly supporting you, I expect, in all your training badges and everything you're doing.
Oh, 100%. No, the support and the backing of everyone at the football club, is crazy good.
So you're looking forward to the future then?
Yeah, definitely. I think we had a great season last season with the youth. I think we've got a fantastic season coming up. I think we've got more age groups this season at the foundation phase, which is amazing. We're able to grab them at the younger age groups, and I think there's some real good opportunities going forward. Definitely. So
was there competitive teams last year then that were in line to winning things last year before it all got shut down?
Yeah, definitely. It was a difficult one. I think we had an under-9s team that was in a final. We had an under-11s team that was in a final. We had an under-16s team that was, I think, in contention for the league, county cup final, and their own EJ League final or cup final. So yeah, quite a few teams have missed out on the opportunities. But even getting to that stage is an amazing achievement.
So talk to me about cup finals for non-competitive. How do you then get, and this is what I could never understand when I could never get my head around with it, was we're non-competitive in a league base, but then all of a sudden we'll put a cup competition in, which then becomes competitive. So why are we mixing the two together? If you know,
I think it's more so down to the time of when the cups are introduced into the league season is probably why it's justified. So I don't think the cup games start until say it's the 2021 season. The cup games won't start until 2021. I'm pretty sure. So they've got the 3-4 months from the start of the season to move teams accordingly, and then they almost find the perfect division for each team, and then they'll put them into a cup. So then it's competitive, but it's hopefully as balanced as possible. So I get what you're saying. It can be quite confusing because it seems a little bit conflicting, but I guess that's how it's justified.
Do you get parents though on that side of it saying, well, hang on a minute, that we're not competitive, but now we're playing competitive?
I think that sometimes it can be a challenge trying to get your head around it, but I think at the same time, like players involved with football, obviously they're watching teams on the telly play for leagues and they're following their favourite club. So sometimes it is quite nice for them to have a little bit of competitiveness, maybe not through the league, because that is always going to be the biggest thing for them to aim towards. But even if they miss out on the cup, they've still got loads of league games to play. So I think they quite enjoy it as well. If a team starts progressing through the cup, the parents love it, the kids love it as well.
So in that sort of side of it, I mean, we spoke about goals for you and whatever else, and you said part of your job's getting players into the reserves and the ladies team and the first team. Do you think you're getting closer?
Yeah, definitely. I think with the players and the teams coming through. I mean, the beautiful thing about our youth system is that we've got teams who have a genuine love for the game, possibly not at the highest of abilities, but again can still be a Harlow side. But at the same time, we've got some cracking sides with some amazing players who travel quite the distance to come and play for our football club, who definitely are more than on the way to reaching reserves football, for example.
So are the club looking, or are you looking yourself to try and bring in sort of girl sides as well to try and bring them through into, or is that a bit more of a difficult because of the distance of travel?
What's that? Oh, sorry, you've cut out there. What did you say?
I said with the girls' football, is that a bit more difficult because of the fact that the leagues are very much sort of like a distance apart, or the teams are very much a distance apart from each other?
Do you know what? I'm still trying to find my philosophy on girls' football. I'm still very interested in it. Admittedly, we haven't got any specific girls' sides other than our lady senior side. However, I've found that we've got quite a few girls actually in primarily boys' sides. So they're considered a mixed age group, and they can be a mixed age group right up until, I think we had a player playing for our under 15s last year, who was the only girl on the boys' side. Again, I don't know the most about that side of the game. It is slightly a different game, but the progression that I've found in having some of the younger girls in the younger age groups, they're absolutely bossing it. And I think that does entice more girls players as well to play for boys teams. Again, I don't know whether that is the best thing for their development, but for the girls that are involved in our foundation phase, them playing in boys teams, they're fearless, and they're such good little players, and they're gonna go on to go on to amazing things. But yeah, no, definitely, if we could have more girl sides, then definitely. But for the time being, we are just mixing the teams with boys and girls.
So do you enjoy the admin side as much as the football side, especially going to all the lovely secretaries meetings and all the rest of it? Do you enjoy all that stuff there?
It's good experience. Sometimes it can be really difficult. Trying to get everything right. We're all moving to the whole game system this year. I don't know what you probably know about the whole game system. So all the players need to be on there this season. So that's quite the challenge. But again, it's all experience. So it's challenging, but we have to do it for a reason.
Well, when we actually first went to put the teams into the Mid-Hearts League, of course, we were actually stopped from actually putting teams in the league. And I don't know if Tim spoke to you about it. We actually went to the first meeting.
It was to do with the Astro, wasn't it? And to do with the markers and stuff.
They wanted us to put blue lines and yellow lines all across the pitch. And then in the end, we came up with a flat cone that I'm assuming you must still use the flat disc. And then they weren't having that either. So it was a bit of a tetuous night, to say the least, when we've got all these players and we had no league to play.
It's, again, I mean, I have heard about that. It's crazy. It's crazy as well because the amount of teams that come across, and you see the mum and dads getting their boy who doesn't play for the football club, but they're getting their boy or young girl to pose on the pitch in front of the arena because it's an amazing place for kids to come. And them line markings, as long as they're set out correctly, sometimes it's a bit difficult to have quite as many as maybe we need to when you've got 3 or 4 different teams playing on the same pitch, because you can't have cones, can you? So you've got to have the flat lines. Sometimes it can be challenging trying to get one team who's got a bunch of them, and then you've got another team who's trying to be skimpy with them. But yeah, it's crazy to think that was a conversation at the time. But the amount of teams now, I think Cheshunt are another club that use the line markings and stuff. So it seems like we've created a trend with the
trendsetters. But who's the derby match then for Harlow? When who's the one would you say is the youth derby game for Harlow? Would it be Cheshunt or somebody like that are quite close?
Do you know what? I don't really see derbies, especially amongst younger age groups. I think some of the older age groups, especially some of the EJ sides, obviously the sides that need to be in that league are of a certain step. So sometimes you might get a Harlow side playing like a Cheshunt team, yeah. And because they are all maybe like Stortford or something, but because they're all in the semi-professional system. Yeah. You might find that there's possibly a little bit of competitiveness there, but yeah, in as much as youth derbies, I don't really see it. Maybe it's there, I don't know.
But you just look like you're enjoying it, and from what I've been told, my friend, you're doing an absolutely amazing job of what you are doing. The club are extremely proud of you, and I know your boss certainly is. And all I hear is about Super Alfie. That's all people tell me about you all the time when I'm talking about you. So listen, mate, I really appreciate you coming on. I really appreciate your time, and I think everybody at the club really appreciates what you're doing for the club, and the time that you're actually spending at the club as well, and putting in all that hard work and bringing the future Harlow Town stars for the future. So we really do appreciate it. And as we said before, off air, hopefully we can do a weekly program with you around the children and getting them on and having a chat about how they're getting on a weekly basis. So that will be fantastic. But Alfie, a massive thank you for your time today. I really appreciate it, and we'll see you next time. Good night.
No, thank you so much for having me. Cheers.
No worries.